Good.
Hello Charles, thanks for doing this interview. Charles Neal has written the first European book about gay or bisexual men who've married women and then come out later, or haven't quite yet. It's called The Marrying Kind, Lives of Gay and Bisexual Men Who Marry Women. And it has got 10 detailed interviews with these men, often painful, but often in every case, they're a worthwhile process of how they've gone through the various stages of living in a marriage and then changing their lives. Firstly, Charles, what's made you want to write this book?
Working over many years with a large number, increasing numbers of gay and bisexual men coming to me with this dilemma as central to their lives. My own history of having married originally, become a father, and then living in a gay relationship myself for many years. And professionally, it's been my mission to kind of move away from rigid categorizing of sexualities and relationships, and to promote an idea that relationships are unique, varied, individual, and fluent.
You've chosen an interview format. Why did you choose that? And also I want to just ask you to say a bit about the fact that it doesn't really read like a dialogue. There's obviously some sort of writing exchange that's happened between you.
Yes, you're right. We wanted to do I wanted to offer a kind of second therapy. Most of the contributors were originally therapy clients of mine, and we thought it would be valuable, it would be a learning experience for them as well as me, if we kind of had a second therapy specifically about this issue. Most of them were written originally. They wrote their life story. I then wrote questions. They answered them in whatever depth they were able and willing to do. And then I asked more questions, and it was a gradually deepening process. There are 2 contributions in the book which were actually recorded as live interviews, and I don't know whether they read differently.
Well, one thing I noticed as well, I'd just like to get into the subject a bit about it, that reading it as a woman, it struck me that the men in the marriage have children and have family life, and that often that's one of the things that today, gay men find it very difficult if they want to have children. So here are men who've had a complete family and children, and that must be a great dilemma for them coming through this whole consciousness.
Yes, the ages of the contributors may be important here, in that most of these men were brought up and were young at a time when the only option really for having a respected family life was to form a relationship with a woman. And of course, one of the things that many gay men in particular, not so much bi men, talk little about is the loss of the heterosexual dream for them. That once they discover internally that they are gay, or that they have a preference for same-sex relationships, that they are likely not to have, or have been likely in the past, not to have a family life, not to have children of their own. And these are massive natural yearnings for men as well as for women. Of course, now that there's so many legal changes in recent years, including gay marriage, gay adoption, gay fostering, it's likely that there will be changes in this in the future, but we don't know that because the cultural scripts about what are superior relationships or proper relationships are much harder to shift than legal issues.
In fact, it made me think a lot about family.
Yes.
And the fact that in this society, particularly the West, the most common family, the grouping of a social grouping is the family that we have.
Yeah.
We don't have many alternative communal living ways of of people living together in other formats.
No, that's true. We still haven't embraced different forms. Still preference is given to couples, to long-term relationships, to monogamous relationships, and to marriage and parenting. There are, of course, in lived experience, a vast variety of relationships other than this. Some of my most valuable relationships have not been long-term relationships. Some of them have not been couples. I haven't been in a couple. Some of them have not been monogamous. We're still very, very hidebound about, and obviously there are prehistoric scripts for this, in that we needed to get together as families in order to protect ourselves and in order to raise children.
So in some ways the stories actually are not just about coming out, but they're about how we're all able to wake up and come out of a kind of social sleep so that we can think about how to live as more fully rounded human beings.
Yeah, indeed. One of the things that I'm very keen on teaching is that coming out isn't just about sexuality. It isn't just a process for lesbian and gay people and bi people and trans people. We all have a process of coming out to do. In my view, continuously. There's continuously more of us to come out, and we can experience ourselves differently at various times in our life.
I was just also thinking about several of the participants talk about true self, this idea of finding my true self. What do you think about that as a psychological construct? Is there such a thing as a, it's a bit like 2020 vision, is there such a thing as a true self?
Well, I believe that there's an original or natural self, i.e. a pre-adaptive self. We were born with a particular set of genetic inheritance, characteristics, form, our actual biological structure is different from other people's, and so on. And I think that remains as a kind of core of us to be returned to at all points of our life. And that kind of doesn't vary. It's like the seabed, and on top of that everything else takes place. But having said that, I also believe that in vast opportunities in a life to experience ourselves in multiple ways, to live a range of lives, if you like, each feeding into the other. So although I am the same person as I was when I was 40 and 30 and 10 and 2, I'm also in each of those stages of my life a very different person. With different opportunities to be different too.
Do you think there's a place for a counterpart book of the lesbian experience, women who marry men and have families?
Yes, I think there's a place for many, many more books. There's not so much written, even in America, where most of the gay and bisexual men stuff is, about women coming out in marriage, although there are quite a number of Yahoo sites. I think in the book, which also serves the function of being a big resource book for people, there are about 50 pages of resources at the end of the book for the first time, gathered together. I think I found 5 books about married women coming out. It's probably not a book for me to do, but for women to do themselves.
Yeah.
But I would also be interested myself in talking to the children of lesbian, gay, bisexual and trans dads about their experience of being brought up with them and their experience of their fathers coming out and the experience beyond that.
So what's the next step for you?
For me, my next book's about Oscar Wilde. Has nothing to do with therapy, but I will keep returning to therapy and to sexualities and to human relationships. There's lots more that I want to do.
Charles Neal, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.